All right.
Cool.
All
We're in
right.
it.
Podcast 001.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
So I'm Blake
Um,
Priebe. I'm in the Kansas City market. And we got Bobby over here.
yep. Yep. Bobby Souza in South Florida. And I focus on the South Florida market as well as Central Florida.
That's awesome. All right, man. So
Yep.
how did you get into real estate and what did the start to your journey kind of look like there?
Okay. So about more than a year ago now, it's maybe 2 years ago, actually. I A buddy of mine came to me and was like, "Hey, I just bought a house in Kissimmee, like a Disney house, a house near Disney, and he was going to run it as an Airbnb. And he's done a ton of research. He was telling me about it little by little, and I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't really know about real estate. Like I just never grew up. No one really taught me about real estate
Hmm.
growing up, and so I was listening, but I was like, okay, cool. And I have a job. I have a dated 9 to 5 job too, in analytics and all that. So I was just like, all right, awesome. So he bought it, and he was telling me about it and going through his whole journey of setting up the Airbnb, designing it, and then he started to make some money. And I was like, wow, okay,
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome. Now he bought during, the Airbnb boom, like the height of Airbnb in 2020. And interest
Yeah,
rates were down and all that. So,
prime
but
time.
so he joined a mastermind group, and I started tagging along and listening and learning a ton. So we fast forward, we started our own short-term rental co-hosting company where we would co-host for other people, manage essentially, and we got up to 6 properties now in Central Florida near Disney, as well as here in South Florida, in Lauderdale by the Sea, Fort Lauderdale area.
Hmm.
And but we manage for other people. So my wife and I was like, we've been looking for our own um, short-term rental, our own vacation rental that we can then go and visit whenever we want, and when we're
Yeah,
not, we can, because we have a little one at home too, and we'd love to have the idea of going on vacation. When we're not using it, we'll rent it, and we built out this whole management company now. So, but everything that I underwrite and like everything I'm looking at, it just the numbers don't make sense for what you would
yeah,
typically want, like 15% to 20% cash on cash return. You're not getting that with the interest rate. So
yeah,
I was like, all right, I got to learn about. I remember watching a video. Someone sent it to me from Pace, and I was like, I got to learn about creative financing. And then that's where, like now, like 4 months ago, I've just been going in on trying to learn as much as I can. And
hmm,
I think it's putting me that much closer to investing, and starting to get some properties on our own. So that's kind of my journey
yeah.
so far, to this point.
That's awesome. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool that you already have the management aspect already set up so that you've kind of got a foundation for the properties that you want to hold on to. Have you kind
Yeah.
of messed with Airbnb arbitrage at all, or has it primarily just been management of other properties, other short-term owners and stuff like that?
Yeah, so when we first started, there was an arbitrage opportunity for
Hmm.
us in Pompano, and it was really nice. It was like on the intercoastal, but the numbers didn't make sense. So for the rent that you can get long term, it would literally take us. It would have taken us 18 months to recoup the amount that we'd have to invest in furnishing and design. And typical like rule of thumb is
Yeah,
like if you can't get your money back within like 6 months, maybe 6 to 8 months, it's probably not a good idea to jump into it. So what we found is like the arbitrage is usually better for maybe more in the cities, or if it's like a studio, 1 bedroom, maybe 2 bedroom, where rent is not too crazy. However, the travel and the amount you can make on short term, that margin is great enough to where we can close the gap. And we
yeah,
found that wasn't really the case in our markets.
yeah.
So no, we haven't gone down that route. Have you?
I
Are you
gotcha.
familiar?
I mean, I don't do any, I honestly don't do any short-term stuff. I was only asking that just to kind of, see if that was a part of, your journey, because some of the short-term investors that I know in the Kansas City market kind of started out with the arbitrage model, just to kind of get into that. But I mean, I'm
Mhm.
kind of similar to you in that, like, my background, none of my family, friends, none of them had any experience in real estate. I was never introduced to it from those type of relationships. But I got into real estate kind of randomly. So I while I was attending school at University of Kansas, my current business partner and I had actually started, buying and selling luxury timepieces, and that was our first kind of business venture that we got into. Um, you know, finding deals on watches and selling them either to other watch wholesalers or other retail buyers. Um, and in doing that, we kind of we went full time after school in doing that, and it kind of just led us into real estate. One of our clients here locally in Kansas City was buying pieces from us, and I was kind of curious how he could afford such expensive watches. Um, and that was when he kind of brought up that he did wholesale real estate. And I immediately, I have always had an interest in real estate. And I would read books about becoming an agent, and I thought that was like the way to get in. I had asked several agents if I could kind of shadow them or assist them or do whatever I could to get in the door, and I never had any luck doing that. So when he brought up wholesale real estate, I was like, I've never heard of this, and obviously, with my curiosity, just kind of did some research, and I found a lot of similarities between the deals that we were doing with watches and just wholesale real estate. Talking to essentially talking to sellers, finding deals and selling those to either other investors or, just someone that's going to buy it at a higher price. Um, but obviously in real estate, the margins are a lot bigger. And so we, for a period of time, made a little bit of a transition. We kind of, we kept on with doing deals with watches while we started to dabble in, learning wholesale. I spent a couple months just in the research phase, and then, started implementing some of the things I was learning with reaching out to Zillow for sale by owner. Which is actually where I got my first deal. But I didn't get any real estate deal for the first several months of working every day to try and get a deal. And that deal it ended up closing, but that was a nightmare in itself. Um, but that's kind of how I got into it, and to date, now we've kind of built um, a wholesale business that consistently does anywhere from 4 to 8 deals a month. um, and now we do wholesale, fix and flip, and our main focus right now is buy and hold. Um, so that's kind of what that looks like, and where I got into it and where I'm currently at. But what kind of challenges or mistakes have you kind of encountered through your journey in real estate?
So I guess so challenges really so far in where I'm at in my journey is because having this management company on the side, really focusing on how do I make time to
Hmm.
like from that business and how do I build that up to where I can start to dedicate more time. So like I had a list of people that I called today for sellers and agents and made that time to do that today because like last week we actually just hired an assistant to help on our management company and we built out all of our SOPs and all our documentation and we're getting that running
That's
that
good.
way we have more time to not only close more deals, like actually getting more clients on the co-hosting side, but then ultimately allow for me to have more time to find deals that we can then run under our management company. So
Yeah.
just in terms of mistakes and challenges, like still looking for my first deal, like truly as a rental investment. So the mistakes really, I haven't hit too many other than really getting started. And then once I cross that bridge and I start getting things going, I'm sure I'm going to make a ton that I'm going to learn from. But
Yeah,
um,
it's part of the process,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. What about
Uh,
you? What about some of the challenges for you?
yeah, I mean, there's a ton of challenges that I've come across, but one of the lessons that that comes right to my mind is having the right goals, but also being able to manage your expectations, um, just to kind of keep you emotionally level throughout this business. There's a lot of ups and downs. You come across title issues, buyers backing out, sellers backing out and all that good stuff. But I guess for a specific example on that, you know, we had a property that was assigned to, and this was kind of early in our stages, so we had the very optimistic outlook, but we had you know, we had assigned a property to a buyer, had everything situated and ready to close essentially, and this was in the last week of December um, last year, and obviously just, you know, title issues just came out of nowhere, and that's just, you know, inevitable with some deals. So we had to push the closing date back into the first week of January, which I was like, all right, you know, whatever we need to do to, you know, get this going. And come to find out, the seller died on New Year's Eve, and the entire deal fell out. It, you know, the brother was the beneficiary to the estate, and he no longer wanted to sell it. He wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, and so really for me is managing my expectations, but still having those goals of, you know, just keeping those goals and staying positive, even though you're going to have a lot of things that come up. I guess one of the challenges that I currently face is, and also kind of a lesson is lack of diligence when it comes to some of the connections and people that you're going to be dealing with in this industry. Um, and I mean, it's just such as like, I mean, contractors and other wholesalers are two, you know, relationships that I think of that I think, you know, diligence is very important. Contractors is kind of obvious. I've got a couple projects right now that I really should have done more diligence with the contractors we put on those projects. So that's definitely, you know, a mistake that was made and a challenge that I have to learn from. And then, you know, even other wholesalers, you know, inside sub two, we definitely have a community of people that, you know, have good values and, you know, work ethically. But, you know, I can think back on one of my very first deals. Um, I had locked up, and I had a couple buyers that were interested. I obviously went with highest and best, and it was a really good, you know, margin there. And that person that committed to be the buyer ended up being a wholesaler, which I don't mind working with other wholesalers whatsoever. I do a lot of JV stuff and partner all the time, but the transparency wasn't there. And, you know, a lot of lying on his behalf. No EMD was submitted. I had to, you know, get on that multiple times throughout the process to where I kind of, you know, got sketched out. And I mean, the entire deal ended up falling through because he didn't find a buyer and he was not transparent with me. So the deal fell through. I lost the, you know, the seller. We ran out of time. Um, but I guess those are kind of those are kind of rants, but more specific examples of, you know, my mistakes and challenges and some lessons to be learned. So
That's really good. Yeah. No, those that's that's great. I like the expectations one too, just because it's
hmm
like not everything is make or break, and you kind of have to
yeah,
figure out how to move on in
yeah,
this. And I'm like,
yeah.
it's similar and getting a lot of this stuff that we're doing for prospecting and management in the
hmm
co-hosting side. It's actually I've seen a lot just going through that process. It's similar in terms of cold calling. Like we used to call long-term landlords and try
Yeah.
and convert them to it's a much bigger uphill battle. People are it's kind of like you're explaining, you know, creative financing to someone that doesn't know. They're like, what's that? Like, and then
Yeah.
so you try and tell people like, hey, what about short-term rentals? Like, no, I don't want to deal with that. Regulations for Airbnb or
hmm
all the things that people throw at you. It's actually not so different because it's all around managing your expectations, move on
Yeah.
to the next one, like do,
On to the next. Yeah,
yeah,
100%. On to the next seller. On to the
yeah,
next deal, the next problem, you know, the next, you know, all that. So
yeah,
I can agree. Um,
yeah.
yeah. And as far as you know, creative financing and stuff like that, what kind of experience up until this point do you have, and what does that kind of look like?
So the experience like that I up to this point, it's been really so what we'll do. I'll do a lot of underwriting, so I have a ton of hours in terms of underwriting for people and or underwriting for realtors really and potential buyers for homes that we end up wanting to manage. That's kind of like the hey, I'll analyze the deal and underwrite it for you and kind of and let you know what it can make as a short-term rental. Do the expenses, do the revenue, all that. And so multiple times now, like we have a realtor that we've been working with and we love working with her. She's in multifamily. she's in the multifamily space, which tends to have a lot more of the creative financing, more to seller
Mhm.
financing. But that's where I started to really dig into that and learn more about how you can leverage that uh, in multifamily deals, because between that
Mhm.
and some of the folks in the short-term rental space, which is still growing. So like we go to a conference every year. Like I've talked with a ton of really good operators. They have boutique hotels now throughout the
Yeah.
the country, which is a big deal. And so hearing like the seller financing deals and learning about that, that's so far as my experience. And then again, right now, like now I'm at the point where I'm calling sellers and agents, and I know sub two now so well on how to explain
Yeah.
it. Now it's just getting one of those deals over the finish line.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about you?
I would say that's the biggest part is just getting the repetitions and really understanding um, how to communicate terms and seller finance and creative finance just in general. Because when I got into pitching terms and doing that, I was honestly pretty lost and just like making shots in the dark. But through doing that and just it just gets you the experience to be more confident with those conversations. But I've yet to get a creative deal through the closing table. But with that said, I've had tons of practice pitching creative options and negotiating terms. Um, with sellers. I've had a couple sellers actually agree to terms that we've negotiated. And when it came down to getting the paperwork going, which is something that, I still need to learn more about personally, they just kind of decided they would rather go to a cash offer, which for me works out fine because that's what I'm used to. And in the specific example I'm thinking of that I had everything fully negotiated and ready to go. The cash deal turned out to be a good wholesale deal for us anyway.
Oh,
So I
okay.
haven't had one. Yeah, I haven't had one hit the closing table yet. But it kind of ties back into what you were saying about the multifamily opportunities. Because right now, I am currently negotiating some hybrid terms with a seller on a small multifamily property here in our market. Um, and I mean, it's a situation where he had it listed over a year ago. The listing canceled a while back. I ended up getting in touch with him directly through just our direct to seller marketing, and he, was asking, a price that just personally didn't make sense. Um, and especially with the current interest rates, it was kind of like a barrier to, making that work, and it wasn't possible at that number. Um, and just in talking to him more, he was in a situation where he just had a kid and he's moving with his wife. And they're going to be further away from the property. He self manages. So it's, all these underlying factors where, he just, wants to get rid of it, but he wants to get the most value that he can because he's put some work into the property. So that's where I started, talking about and pretty much proposing, just seller finance in general. And, I came to learn that he has a note already. He currently has a mortgage on the property, and it's got a pretty good interest rate. The payments make sense, and he's also got a decent amount of equity. So I've already spoke with him multiple times about, taking over those existing payments and then creating a separate note based on the equity that he has at the price that he wants. Um, to the point now where every term except for the down payment is lined up and ready to go. Um, he wanted a little bit more than what I was willing to kind of give for a cash down payment. I worked him down. We kind of met in the middle right now, and if he's good to go with the cash price that we're at now for the down payment, um, it's going to turn out to be an incredibly good deal. We were able to amortize his note over 30 years with a 15-year balloon. Um, and 0% interest on his note.
Wow.
And what I did there was, I decided to wrap up. I gave him a couple different options, some lower interest, some, middle interest, and then no interest, but changing the structure of the note to him so that either way, the payments for me are going to be the same. And with the no interest, I packaged up, or the 0% interest, I packaged up all the potential interest that he would have had with the other options and just put it into the purchase price. So overall, he's getting, more money over that period of time. But for me, there's zero interest, so the payments are going to be a lot less. And
Hmm.
I mean, I'm about to call him back today and see if we can get the paperwork going because that's where we're currently at. Um,
Awesome.
but I have yet to really, close on something like that. But this is one that would be pretty exciting. So
That's great, man. That and what have you are you using other people's money for that, or from your wholesale business, have you put away enough to where you can close on
yeah,
that yourself?
that's a good question. So ideally, I think it would be really cool to, get this deal without any of our own cash personally. And we do have enough room. We have plenty of room with the cash flow um, to incorporate private money to cover the cash down and maybe some minor improvements. Um, but if it came down to it with the amount that we've already negotiated, I mean, we could put our own cash into it and make it a little bit of a sweeter deal. But I think it would be cool to come into it with no money out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's the big part to me too. Yeah,
yeah,
is when you like right now, I'm so I joined a team of people down here in South Florida, so I can
hmm,
learn a ton about the whole process from start to finish, right? And like going to these meetups, to the South Florida real estate meetups and the sub two meetups, and talking
yeah,
um, and now like joined a team because I'm like, all right, well, between management company, between um, you know, between my 9 to 5 job too, what's my quickest way to learn about how getting these deals over the finish line from start to finish, right? Like I can call and then let's
yeah,
say they're like, yeah, send me offer and they accept it. Then I'd be like, all right, now what? And so and now like
yeah.
joining a team of people too, and
That's huge.
yeah, there's like the true reason when I joined into like the community as well, like this deal that's still available. It's been on the market for a year. It's
Hmm.
multifamily and I love the property. And then it's about the deal that they've come down a ton on the price, and they pretty much own it. They've owned it since like the 80s, and so
Yeah,
it's like they're tired landlord. They're ready to retire, and so
yeah.
I'm like, man, you put that
Those
deal
are good.
together, and then it's like trying to find other people, other people's money because that's like
Yeah.
$3 million deal, and that'll be the fun challenge. But if it gets to there,
That's a
then
big
it's
one.
like, okay, yeah, right. So
Yeah,
I'm always curious. That's why I asked. I was like curious how you're in your mindset of going through that. What that looked like
yeah.
for you if you needed to do that.
And yeah, I mean, I'm still in the process of learning more about raising private capital and how to structure it. My business partner is actually, he's the one that does all the financial aspects and he, you know, he's really good at doing that side of things. And we have raised private money for we've raised quite a bit of private money, but all of that has been into like short-term deals, like fix and flips, or most of the properties that we buy, we're able to burr them, which I know is really hard right now in this current market with interest rates and everything. But we've been able to find deals that we can still make sense of, burr opportunities, and so we use private money as more of like a short-term upfront for purchase and rehab costs, and then we'll go ahead and stabilize it and refinance so that we get them paid out. And we've had really good success in doing that and providing solid returns with very little risk at all to our investors. But as far as structuring private money for like creative deals and figuring out how to either cash them out, or if they're open to longer term or longer structure returns, like that's something that we're still trying to kind of figure out, or at least connect with people that we can utilize private money for creative deals. But because we haven't really hit that step yet, we haven't progressed too much there personally.
Hmm.
And every time that we need cash in a situation, um, we just throw our own cash into it from our business,
Yeah,
which works, but is not something I would prefer to do, and it's not scalable. Um, so
yeah,
yeah,
cool. That's cool.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, so I'm curious. So I guess what's the future like what's your long-term goals for your company? Is it to
Yeah.
continue to build this one? Is it like where do you see it going?
So, I mean, my mind goes everywhere with that kind of question. But right now I really want to focus on, stabilizing our wholesale operations so that I'm a little less hands-on with the day-to-day stuff and same with my partner. Um, while we also kind of build and scale our um and that goes along with the flips, but also our building and scaling our portfolio so that it's a little bit more self-managed, or we have management in place that, we just have to oversee. But right now we kind of operate our fix and flips, our wholesale deals, and manage our properties. So we have a lot like on our plate on the day to day. So I really in the future would like to scale out of those things to focus on other opportunities and other businesses. I really want to be able to get to the point where we can either buy into or build, just own companies that vertically integrate with our current real estate operations.
Mhm.
Um, with, specifically, I really want to get to a point where we have our own, foundation and roofing companies that we can use for our projects and still, have that be its own entity. And same thing kind of with like, title company is something I want to get into at some point. um, and ultimately, down the road, I want to get into more lending on the lending side of things. Um, but right now, our focus is kind of more into physical real estate and buying our properties, building our portfolio. So building the portfolio is our main goal. But into the future, I want to be able to get into those other businesses and just buying into other businesses in general, even outside of real estate. Um, I mean, kind of like, what Pace is doing with creatively buying businesses and getting
Yeah.
equity in companies like that. I
Yeah.
find that really interesting. And obviously, I don't want to get scatterbrained with, shiny objects and all that. So right now, I just need to focus on what we're currently building and get to a
Yeah.
point where, that focus can be put into other things. So,
Yeah.
but
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and what about
Yeah.
you with, what your future potential and what that future business looks like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, keeping my eye on the prize as well, right? And I know it's
Yep.
gonna have to go in a on that journey of like before before I can get to the point where we're buying our own. And when I say we, like me and my wife too,
Yeah.
buying our own properties. I'm going through the process of like, okay, well, I know creative is the way I want to go and really, be able to leverage um the benefits of that to maximize our cash flow. And so now I'm like, all right, let me do the cold calling, let me get this, let me
Mhm.
really learn about this stuff, while also now, since building up this management company to where, and you said to yourself as well, or you just said around stabilizing, kind of getting things running so you can be, it's more
Yeah.
like working what is it, working on the business rather than
Yes.
working in the
Yeah.
business, right? So I just went through that whole process, so I can definitely share with you a lot of the stuff that I did in terms of how to build out the SOPs and
Yeah.
videos and things like that for whether you go VA or a sum assistant or whatever.
Mhm.
But like now that we've done that, the goal is to two arms is like continue building up our co-hosting, but ultimately, and we want to get to right now the next goal is like we need to make 20,000. We need to get to where we're making 20,000 a month in
Mhm.
the revenue from, after our cut as a co-hosting company. And then
Mhm.
that's just next year's goal in
Yeah.
24. And so then that as well is now building up our own real estate portfolio, like Kristen and I doing that.
Mhm.
Um, and ultimately getting properties throughout the whole country where we can visit and vacation when we want to. And
Yeah.
then when we're not doing that, we can, we'll rent them. We'll rent them out.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. And I mean, honestly, that's something that I've kind of thought about and gotten excited about is the vacation rentals and being able to, enjoy them when possible and generate revenue as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I can definitely respect that.
Yeah.
And as far as like,
Awesome.
some of the people that might come across, this video, who knows what that looks like, but What what value do you think you can provide to someone that might be watching this? And what things are you looking for from other people that are, doing deals and in the real estate industry? Um, so
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so really, short-term rentals, right? So any if especially I love working with investors because they want to be hands off. They're like, hey, I need to find someone that I can
hmm
trust, that knows what they're doing, that's going to maximize and optimize the revenue coming from this property. And so they understand that they need to invest. Like if you're making a short-term rental or even a mid-term rental, right, which is also another
hmm
avenue, but you're furnishing it, and yes, the design is different, but you're investing knowing that that payoff is going to be, so much more than if you were to long-term rent it. So the value there is, through our co-hosting company that we built up, we can manage the properties for any investors that are looking for short-term rental management. We also do midterm rental management. So that's the biggest value that we can bring. And then for me, partnering with, like like I said, working with investors and really learning. I mean, you going through and just talking about your journey and the different deals you're doing, and it's like such a good learning for me and seeing that perspective, and then also opens the gate to resources, and just like the networking aspect is really what I love about this whole concept of learning people in the trades, business people that are
hmm
doing deals all over
Yeah,
the country. So yeah, just learning from people is really what I'd like to what I want to take away
yeah,
from others. But
yeah.
what about you? What's the
Um,
value you can bring?
yeah, I think like honestly, just from my experience and some of the most value that I've brought to other people in this industry is just sourcing good deals. I work with a lot of buyers here locally, and we provide them with deals that they really could not get anywhere else, especially on the market. Um, so I think, sourcing buyers with, good deals is something that, I can provide a lot of value with. I can also help other people, like you or anyone else that's looking to get into investing and kind of, lay out what that looks like and, add, any advice that I can or assistance in, talking to sellers, negotiating, locking deals up. That's really where, where a lot of my experience is. I've actually one of the other students that's in Arizona. He does some marketing out here in Kansas City, and he's reached out to me, and he's got a couple opportunities that I've been able to kind of do a little bit more of the comping, analyzing, because Kansas City is a non-disclosure, so it's for anyone outsider doesn't have MLS access. It's hard to analyze deals. So analyzing and copying deals, being able to negotiate, so anything wholesale related in that way is where my experience is. And then kind of what I would be looking for is just kind of like you, just building long-term relationships within this industry and primarily just friendships in general with people that are like-minded and are serious about um, just building themselves up and the people around them. But more specifically, I'd be looking for end buyers in Kansas City, Florida, and Colorado, which is where we're currently in Kansas City and we're looking to expand into Florida and Colorado. Um, Central Florida and Denver and Colorado Springs more specifically.
Okay.
And then, private money lenders. So anybody that's looking for, a safe return with someone that's got a track record and decent experience. That's, something that I'd be looking for as well. So that's kind of what
Nice.
that would look like for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And so for anybody that like watches this, where can they how can they reach out to you? It's the best way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, best way would probably um, just be either Facebook or Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Blake Priebe. Same with Instagram, Blake Priebe. Um, and yeah, that's those would be best bets. Just reach out there. We can connect. I'm always happy to hop on the phone from there. Um, so yeah, what about you?
So on Instagram is definitely the best way, at Bobby Souza, and then on Facebook is it's the same thing at Bobby Souza,
Yep.
and we are our co-hosting company is Relaxed Stays. So if on Instagram, it's at your relaxed stay, RELAXED stay. Yeah, just feel free to reach out, DM through that, and I'll get back to you.
Cool.
Cool. All
First
right.
podcast
Awesome.
in the books.
Yeah.